blinded.
So
scoot over right here. Y'all are perfect.
Yeah, there's two, but I'm going to introduce y'all. By the way, the live stream starts right now. So, thank you for asking. Okay guys, we're starting, so reduce the chatter. Thank you. All right, so I'd like to introduce you guys to our speakers. This is Torrey. She has 4+ years as a 2D animator who worked for ASIFA-South and Bento Box and is currently working with Olan Rogers and Radio Farm Productions on the Godspeed series. This is Josh. He's also a digital animator. He works for Radio Farm Productions on the... Oh, that was Torrey. He works for Powerhouse and Bento Box is currently working on an indie animated pilot with Final Space creator Olan Rogers. And we're really lucky to have these guys because they have something our past speakers don't have, which is they have less than 10 years of experience in the industry. And I know usually we want to brag about the opposite, but that gives us a really amazing opportunity because nowadays we don't have the same technology that we did. Oh, we have the technology that we didn't have in... I'm so nervous. I'm so sorry.
Okay. It's awesome. You're doing great.
Oh my gosh. Nowadays, we have more technology than we did in the past. So when you try to apply for a job nowadays, we have technology. You used to have to print out forms and do things that we don't have to do nowadays. A lot of our speakers who came in the past didn't really have to go through these things, and these guys are in the industry at a time that's very similar to what we've gone through. So we have a lot of questions for them that the past speakers may not have been able to answer. So we're going to kind of get started. We have a few questions before we get into the Q&A. So we're going to start with Josh because he has some opinions on AI that he wanted to share with some people. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah. Okay. I was like, if I was graduating right now, I'd be scared about AI. I figured you guys are if you're like into art or animation or whatever. So for the past year, I've been like studying software engineering, and I tried to use ChatGPT to like help, and it's terrible. And I think things that are going on with OpenAI right now are not as big of a deal as these companies want you to think they are. When mocap first came out, a lot of animators were like, "Oh my God, this is going to take our jobs. The actors can just do the thing, and who's going to need animators anymore?" And now there's like more animation jobs ever because of mocap. I'm not saying AI is going to be helpful, but I just don't think it's something that should keep you from pursuing your dreams, because we're always going to need a human touch on creative endeavors. So if anything, it'll help, maybe, or it'll just make like really bad memes, but I don't want you guys to be afraid of it. It's probably gonna be just as like irrelevant as like NFTs are. And like, wow. Just give it 5 years and it'll be like something that's like a part of our life, but not in the way that these companies and these tech bros want you to think it is. I mean, I don't know, that's kind of my opinion. But, yeah.
We value your opinion.
Also, Tori, do you want to scooch over so you're not in the light? Just that way you're not getting like blinded by it.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't looking at anybody else.
Right.
All right, so we're going to move on to Tori now. All right, so knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your student self on how to improve your art and navigate your career? And don't sugarcoat it at all. Like, give her the cold hard truth. Like, what would you tell her?
Please.
Okay. I feel like a lot of people do sugarcoat it because they want to give you the good news. They want you to follow your dreams. They don't want to scare you away from doing that. But it's really important to be aware of the salty with the sugar, because you're not going to get anywhere just thinking you're just going to make it. There are steps you have to take to get there. And it's a lot of work, really. You have to have the persistence and the patience, because you're going to get a lot of rejections. You're going to get a lot of emails, probably hundreds of them. And if you don't, congratulations, because that's not common. And, you know, a lot of times when I was thinking about chasing my dreams, I felt like I was very lost. I felt like I had an empty canvas. But it turns out I was painting the whole time. I just didn't know that. And through all those times, I thought, once I get into this industry, I'm not going to be depressed anymore. I'm not going to have anxiety anymore. I'm going to make it, and I'm going to be the best person I'm going to be. But that stuff's going to come with you. And I think it's really important to be aware of that, because even though art and animation has inspired me and it has made me a better person, you are going to continue to make yourself a better person beyond that. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Josh, how about you?
What was the question?
So, what advice would you give to student Tori? I'm kidding. What advice would you give to student you?
To student me, I don't know. I think I did a good job, so I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
Post online. I know it sucks, but the online network is kind of how you're going to get most of your jobs. All the jobs I've gotten are from like people I've met and like cold emails. No one cared about my resume. Like, they maybe cared about my demo reel, but it was like just the people I knew that got me the job. So post online, email people, put yourself out there. LinkedIn and Indeed are kind of just scams. But yeah, that's what I think.
That is the perfect segue to the next question, which was, could you talk about the importance of online presence, and what advice would you give to someone trying to put together a portfolio?
You want to go first?
Have a lot of variety if you're going to be making your portfolio. Don't just do walk cycles. Have a walk cycle coming at you in like different paces. Have it like be a quadruped. And like I have a horse that I animated, and I have Link riding the horse. And I have all these features, like his boots are moving, his hair is moving, the horse's hair is moving. And like there's just like a whole bunch of physics on top of that. And that's what they want to see, is they want to be able to see like perspective on top of your ability to make sure everything works together all right. What else is there? What do you think?
You should, if you're not making a student film, you should do it now. Like nothing you do is like a practice should be in your demo reel, like bouncing balls or like just a basic walk. So if no one's hiring you, hire yourself, make that cool thing that's in your head, and then just make it look awesome, and then use that as your demo reel.
Awesome. All right. And so a lot of people ask advice on how to get their first job. And so I would like to ask what some knowledge you would impart on someone who just got their first job and they're about to start working.
It depends on the type of work you're going for, because you could end up with a freelance job or you can be working a full-time job. And a lot of this comes with taxes. Yay! Turns out when you're an animator, you have to be aware of all of it. When you're working full-time, it is also contract-based, as long as, as the same as freelance. Sorry, I am a little nervous.
Yeah, and that coffee pot is just screaming.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, contracts. So once the show is over, you might be out of work, and that's very common. I was actually, before Godspeed, I was out of work for 5 months, and I had to work like a desk job for a little bit. And that's normal. And I was also applying to a bunch of animation jobs. With the experience that I have, I've worked on like 8 shows, excuse me. And I've worked on 8 shows, and I still was having a really hard time getting myself anywhere. And after that, having Josh, a friend in the network, got me somewhere else, and I was able to prove my worth there. And it's really important to have friends in the industry, and not just trying to network and make business officials your best friends by like talking business and all this, whatever. But like try to show your passion, because people love that. And sharing your passions among each other, you're gonna make a lot of really great friends in this industry, and they are going to take you a long way. They can be considered your competition, but really they're just allies. They're your allies for sure. So
I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, save your money, like Tori said, taxes, but also hiatuses come pretty fast, like Netflix and HBO. They don't care about you, in fact, they hate you. And when the writer's strike's over, they're hoping that you're not gonna strike. And if you do, no one from Hollywood's gonna care. What's up?
I actually heard it just ended.
It did just end.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter, because you're all artists. You're animators. They're still gonna pay you bad and try to take your time off. So save your money. Don't work hours you're not paid for, because that's like scabbing kind of. Because then you're just making it harder for everyone else to give up with you, and it like creates this toxic work environment. So yeah,
And
save your money, don't
If you
work.
don't know what scabbing is, scabbing is essentially like if people are on strike and you're part of that union and then you start writing despite that strike, that's scabbing and you're kind of undermining everyone else you're working with. A lot of other people call that ghosting hours if it's not like with a strike specifically, but I didn't know what that word meant until like a week ago, so.
Learn something every day.
Right?
Yeah, you are.
Oh, sure. So since you guys are talking about taxes, you were talking about different jobs, because we have had a conversation before all of this. So which ways, like how do you plan for those taxes? Do they come during or after the fact?
So with freelance, if you're going to be an animator, you are going to be a freelancer at some point. Quarterly taxes, pay attention to this. If you do not pay for your quarterly taxes, you can get penalized. It will not happen with state taxes, but you do have to do it with federal taxes. Fill out a 1040-ES and pay attention to the deadlines.
Write that down.
Quarterly taxes. Yeah, write that down. 1040-ES.
You can get also the recording too.
Yes.
Live stream.
Super important.
Speaking of recording, we're all in the frame, right?
Yes.
Great.
Scoot over.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let's stay in front of the whiteboard. Okay,
Sure.
sounds good.
All right, so now we're going to go to our big question that y'all voted on. So how's it been working for companies that are located in Atlanta, like Awesome Inc? Is your work mainly online or in person due to location?
A lot of it for Awesome Inc. I actually had to do online because I actually started working there during COVID. So a lot of it was remote. Since then, I think they've brought people into the office, but I haven't worked on any recent projects with them since then. But also, great people to work with. I really like Awesome Inc. Yeah, all great leaders for sure.
So talk a bit about what it's like to work online and like what the difference that is between working in person. How does that affect the workflow?
It depends on if you're like an introvert or an extrovert, because when you're an introvert, you get to work at home, that's great. If you're an extrovert, you're like, oh man, I like people though, you know? I found out I'm an ambivert. I like a mix of both. I would love hybrid if that were an option. I got very stir crazy during COVID, and I was like, I have to go out of my house because it feels like jail right now. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed what I was doing, so it didn't really matter where I was.
I've only worked at Bento Box in Atlanta. It's nice to have a nice office. They're probably gonna move it again. Because you have closures, COVID happened, and then hiatus happened, and another hiatus. So, I mean, it's been fun. It's a roller coaster. You'll see when you get into the industry.
That's a great next question. How are the writers and actors striking affecting the animation industry?
We have been out of jobs for a while. If there are no scripts, there are no storyboards, and if there are no storyboards, there are no animators. So that's how that's been. I'm thinking it might start coming back up pretty soon, so I'm pretty excited about that.
I will say, the strike did end like yesterday at midnight, I believe, or either the night before. 12:15 to be exact, midnight and a quarter. But it is tentatively over. There's still the actors we have to wait on, and since it was all ratified, writers are still writing, but again, you have to wait for those voice actors and all that, and so that still affects it. And then I believe the animation like contracts are up for debate in July, so.
And then for video game industry people, they're gonna strike next, so.
Whoa.
Yeah. Basically, stick together, guys, so we can get paid good, okay?
For all of you with public opinions, inside of Pigeonhole, you can also comment under the questions too. So we would love to hear what you think about each of these topics.
All right, so our next question is, how did you get your foot in the door of the industry?
For me, I actually went to school at Wholesale, and I studied 3D animation with Maya and ZBrush. And when I graduated, I was like, I just wanted to draw that whole time. I don't know why I was there. So I ended up working retail for a whole 3 years and just animating every night when I got home. And I was getting a lot of rejection emails, like constantly. And I was getting really depressed, and I was like, oh man, I'm never gonna get into this industry. This is gonna suck. And I worked really, really hard. And I was like, well, there's the dead end, might as well just stay there. No, there's like so many doors behind that dead end, and you just need to push right through it. But yeah, so I applied to Bento Box, and I was like, hey, they're hiring, that's great. And then Craig, he was just like, here's a test. And I was like, oh crap, I've never done rig animation before. So I went ahead and I learned rigging and animation all within 24 hours of this test. And yeah. And I went nuts because I did not sleep. I was doing the test the full 24 hours, and I passed it. I think the reason I actually passed it was because I was putting life into this rig. Like, that is the most important part. If you're able to put a life into what you're making, you got it.
Do you think that your 2D animation and the way that you were able to like kind of, hey guys, do you think that like you have a lot more freedom with how the lines work and how the form moves with 2D animation? Do you think that really had a huge effect on your like rigging and how you did on that test?
I honestly don't remember the test too well anymore, to be honest. I can't say too much about it because I believe it's still under NDA, but that's the method I went through to get through it. But since then, I've been working with rigs, and I like to do a lot of traditional animation on top of my rigs and then match the rig to the 2D animation that I've made. And it works out really well because you can stay on model very easily by doing this, and you can also make it a lot more fluid because you're just matching your drawings with this rig. So, yeah.
How about you, Josh? How did you get your foot in the door?
I used to post on this website called newgrounds.com.
Yes.
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 What's the website?
Newgrounds.com. It's okay, it's for old people.
The old people are the people who are hiring.
Well, I met my friend there, and he was like, he got a job at Bento Box, and then he referred me. And then that's kind of like how me and Tori got our current gig. We're currently working, at least I am, until Friday. Then I'm unemployed. But I used to post YouTube animations, and this YouTuber was like, oh, I really like that. And then we did like a pilot together, and then his show Final Space picked up, and that got put on TBS. And then the strike happened, and all the shows he was working on, they yanked him away. And he's like, I'm bored. And so he started this show called Godspeed, and now me and Tori have been working on it for like the past 5 months. And also what Tori said about like learning, what you learn rigging in like a week?
A day.
A day? Tori did the same thing with After Effects, like oh yeah, I'm a compositor, and then like no sleep learning compositing, and now that's what she does.
Well, I knew compositing. I told my director this, and he's like, great, we're gonna keep you on for a compositor. And then the next day, he's like, all right, so when you're in After Effects, I'm like, I had never been on that before. So this couple weekends ago, I was just 30 pages of notes, constant, getting as much stuff drilled in my head so I can make sure I can provide for my team. And now I'm compositing until the end of October. I thought my contract was gonna end this week too, but yeah. Learn as much as you can, because it's going to get you far. You're going to extend contracts, you're gonna be able to make more connections. The more you know, the more job opportunities you're gonna have.
All right, and we're gonna go to our next crowd question, which is getting into the industry, most people jump at the first opportunity given. What should we avoid when joining the industry?
That's tough, because the industry like next year is gonna be different, and the year after that it's gonna be different. It's like constantly changing, so you're gonna have to kind of use some of your judgment. Make sure your pay is 3 times your rent so that you can live. That's my advice.
I think he nailed that one.
Did you ever sign a contract when entering/starting work in a studio? If so, what are some things we should know or should be wary of?
Read the contract first.
Yeah, that's really important. There's actually been a time where they put the different prices down on the contract where it was like $200 a week, and I was expecting like $2,000 or something. And I was like, I think this is wrong. And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I feel like you did that on purpose. So definitely read your contracts, seriously.
Yeah, there's no getting around that. You're gonna sign an NDA too, I guess.
Yeah.
But you probably are, that's a non-disclosure agreement. Just don't post your work on Instagram.
Yeah,
and
people have done that and
hire
gotten
you.
in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, they do not stay in the industry if they post their stuff before the producers are okay with it.
So our next question is from Professor Malone. If someone wants to apply for a certain studio, would you recommend drawing in that studio's existing style with the studio's characters, or original characters but in that studio's style?
That's a fun one, actually. So, I don't know, it depends. Because you definitely want to, like, match the style of the show that they want, but you might also not have enough time because they might just be like, oh, we're accepting applications for this 1 week. I think what they like a lot is fan art. So, like, for instance, if you're trying to apply to, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender or something, already have a bunch of stuff that you've loved making in the past, and, you know, continue making that stuff of just, like, these benders, you know, doing all that crap all over the place. Different perspectives, too, for sure, because, like, I remember, like, in the car, when you're a kid, you look outside the window and you see, like, a horse riding next to the car. But now I see, like, Gwen Stacy moving forward from light to light, and, like, different twirls and everything. And it's like, she is foreshortened, so my animation skills have improved. So my, like, my foreshortening skills have improved as well. So try to match foreshortening. Foreshortening is, like, one of the best things you can learn in this industry.
Yeah, I think if you can animate in the studio style, I think since time is limited, if you're applying to like an adult animation show studio, like a lot of the ones here in Atlanta, knowing Harmony rigs and then doing animation in that style is a good way to go about it. Like if you're gonna send like a reel to Disney, don't have characters like cussing and drinking and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
we don't want to do that in our cartoons. So yeah, I think it is good to animate the show style.
That's great advice. Oh, there was one question which I really liked. It's moved on,
Oh,
however.
sorry.
No,
Wrong one.
that's okay, because I remembered it. It was basically, so since there's not a lot of studio work right now, and so studios are shutting down, have you seen a lot of animation work that's, you know, not technically studio work?
How, like, independent films and, like, YouTube have blown up since COVID. And I think that is awesome, because it's basically like a bunch of students getting stuff together, and they collaborate and make phenomenal work, and then they get millions of views and immediately get into Disney. Like, that's awesome. That is so cool to see, for sure.
Yeah, I think if you can't get a studio job, definitely hire yourself and make the thing that you want to make, like I said earlier. There's also like the independent scene, right? Like with Has-Been Hotel and
Yeah.
man, it's so old. What are the other ones?
Laxadaisy.
Laxadaisy, the one we're doing.
Yeah, the one we're doing.
That's kind of studio though. I don't know.
I'm going to shamelessly plug the Women in Animation Club right now. However, there are things like independent studios that do commercial work, which aren't really script-based, and it's commercial animation. And in October, specifically October 13th at 10 a.m., we are having a indie studio that does commercial animation, and they're going to talk about how you can start your own small studio and how working in commercial animation works. So you can get that answer there. Anyways, what inspired you guys to become animators?
There we go. I got this. All right. When I watched Spirit at 4 years old, I saw it in theaters, and I was like, how'd this guy make this horse move? Instead of thinking about like the plot of the film, I was like, this horse has a lot of really cool emotions, and all he has is a narrative. Like, we know exactly what this horse is feeling, and he's not saying anything.
Okay, I'm also obsessed with that movie, and we had the DVD where it was like the 2 discs, and on that second disc, there was like them talking about it. It's because they gave him eyebrows. They talked
Yeah,
all about
definitely.
that, how horses don't have eyebrows, but it was cool. If
Yeah.
you guys ever want to watch it with me, let me know.
But yeah, I was like, there's a lot of really intense emotion in this. And I was like, wait, these are drawings? Drawings did all that? That's crazy. And then I started like studying James Baxter. I'm obsessed with that guy. He's awesome. I saw an interview about him like this past week because I was studying like animation interviews for this one. And apparently he's a very nervous person too. And I was like, thank you. I'm a very nervous person. And it's like, oh man, he's super relatable. He's a very cool dude. Love it.
For me, it was just like websites like Newgrounds. Like I didn't think I was gonna do studio animation. So yeah, I just wanted to make funny internet cartoons.
Good stuff. And speaking of biggest artistic inspirations, Tori already said James Baxter. What about you?
I like Nick Cross a lot. He's like the art director that did Over the Garden Wall. And Felix Colgrave. He's a Newgrounds guy, but look him up on YouTube. It's wild.
So our next question, and you guys don't have to say anonymous. You can say your name. Don't be shy, you guys. But Anonymous said, are jobs mostly at home, or are we still mostly in studios? Because, you know, a lot of things changed during the pandemic. Do we still see all of that happening, or is it kind of going back to the way it used to be?
I think a lot of it is still remote right now just because we're kind of in the middle ground. But it is, I think it's gonna lead toward like hybrid pretty soon. Yeah, exactly. And it really depends on who you're working for, because I might also be working on another contract in the future for people who are in Canada. I'm not gonna move all the way up to Canada for that. So, you know, if you're remote, it's okay. If you're working, you're working, there it is.
Yeah, I think it's weird. I think it's a combo of both. I say be ready for both. Have a webcam.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Dustin, thank you for using your name right here. His question is, how do you maintain a good workflow in terms of freelance animation / working at home rather than getting lost in your own head?
That's a good one, actually. You have to really like what you're working on, to be honest. I get lost in my own head a lot when I'm working remote. And I have a dog, so I get to just be like, wait a second, I'm in my own head. I'm just gonna go take a 10-minute walk. 10-minute walks are like the best, really important, because you're gonna come back and you're gonna work like a wizard. Like, it's worth the 10 minutes. You're gonna be like, oh man, 10 minutes, I should be working during those 10 minutes. No, go take a walk, because you need it.
But
Yeah.
you do the things the doctors say to do when it actually works.
Exactly. Yeah, drink water.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I like to get out, like
Yeah.
run or whatever.
Yeah.
Work on my personal projects at lunch.
Have a lot of like activities outside of animation too, because you cannot create life without having life as well. So important.
And so, when you talk about creating life in your animation, based on our old conversation, you said that there are certain principles that you really love applying to your animation. Do you want to talk a bit about that and how? Do you remember what I'm referencing?
A little bit, yeah. So I am really obsessed with overlapping action. So overlapping action brings a lot of life to stuff. But honestly, every single principle is really important. But I've just like really exaggerated it this past this project that we're working on right now. There's a lot of wind in our current project, and just like a lot of heavy breathing and exhaustion and like excitement. So like bringing that out of the character is really hard. I found out, but it's very fulfilling, because when you're done, you're like, oh my gosh, she's alive. That's awesome. I made that happen. And that's my favorite part of animation, because like you have this character that people can relate to, and that's also you at the same time. You're bringing this little thing to life, and you're like, am I God?
And that's why we all became artists.
Yeah. It's like a spiritual experience for me, honestly, because like I relate so much to these characters, and I care so much about them as if they're real people. And to me, they have become real people. So yeah.
Apparently, can I say this? Apparently there's a study that when we think about our favorite characters, it's basically the same chemical reaction about when you think about loved ones. I don't know what study it was, so don't quote me on that, because that could just be a lie from the internet, but I like to think that it's true. Sorry, whoever's the last question. I think it was about being portfolio ready. Do you guys want to touch on that again?
Yes.
A little bit?
It's about being portfolio ready.
Yeah.
I think like what Tori said about having a lot of variety. Make sure it's like a minute long. It doesn't need. We don't need like 3 minutes of like dialogue. Keep it like varied, and then keep it your best stuff. Keep it short and sweet. It doesn't really need a song like as much as we love to put our jams.
I have it on sound most of the time anyway.
Yeah, that's like the true flex, is a silent demo reel, so.
Nice. All right. While we're waiting, so what advice would you give to people about how they can breathe more life into their animation, how they can improve their animation?
Oh, just really study the principles, like constantly. Like that little ball bounce thing, it looks boring, but it's very necessary. Do that. Start from scratch, you know, move forward. Pay attention to the people around you. Like go to the park and just watch people. Everyone has a different walk. And it's like, that's part of them. That is their personality going with them wherever they're going. And it's like, everyone's a character. You can make a character out of somebody you saw on the street.
Yeah, and I think especially for like rigged shows, since like in Atlanta, that's what a lot of the jobs are, is like rigged animation. Is you see a lot of demo reels or like test submissions where it looks really rigged. If you can tell it's a rig, maybe give it another pass. Breathe the life into it that Torrey talked about, and make it look traditional as much as you can. That's what studios tend to look for, is like a rigged animator making something look traditional.
Yeah, a lot of the times people will be doing rigged animation and it just looks like a robot. And it's like, that's not alive, that's a robot. Yeah, exactly.
And so what advice would you give to people on like ways that they can learn rigging?
Watch
Since
all
you learned
kinds
it in
of
a night.
tutorials. Yeah, watch all kinds of tutorials, like just constant. And, you know, get a really, really good character turnaround and then use that as your reference.
All right, so our next question is, how do tests work? How long does it take to do a test? Do they give you a week, or is this like an assignment due the next day?
Oh my God, someone has an answer for that? I'd love to know.
Oh, it changes all the time, like every time. I've had paid tests, I've had non-paid tests, I've had tests that were 2 weeks, I've had tests that were 1 week, 1 day, a few hours, and honestly, it works out in the end, honestly, in my opinion, but.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah,
it's
it's
always
always a surprise.
miserable.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
With the Bird app, I think they're talking about
Twitter.
deceased
What do you
Twitter.
mean, X?
Never calling it out.
Rest in pieces. With the quote Bird app and other previously deceased, I believe, platforms for artists dying, what is your advice when it comes to building an online presence? Also, I can't judge anyone for having typos. I'm the worst, so sorry.
Wait, other apps are dying too? What else is going down? DeviantArt?
Oh, DeviantArt?
They got DeviantArt? It's been dusty, but it's still alive.
It's still there, but
Elon didn't get it.
in a while. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, still not as bad.
A shutter rolls across the room.
I would say YouTube and Instagram are still good.
TikTok's pretty good too right now.
Oh, TikTok is
yeah.
great, yeah.
I thought Tumblr was having a comeback or something.
Yeah, everyone's jumped onto Tumblr because Twitter's dying.
Anyways, we're just going
We're
back
gonna
and forth.
move. Now it's time for the extroverts to shine.
Oh.
So we're gonna go into in-person questions. So yeah, raise your hands. Get ready. All right, I'm gonna start and move my way across.
Can somebody help Sydney grab the microphone and pass it over? So she
Yeah,
doesn't have
thank
to
you so
walk?
much. I hate walking.
Hey. Oh, hello. Okay, there it is. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say I'm a huge Olan Rogers fan, so you guys are like
What's
amazing.
your name?
And like I've literally been following him since I was in middle school, so you guys are like so cool for that.
Ava Sims.
Sin S-I-N-S. But aside from that, what is it like a typical day for you? Like wake up, do like a warm up maybe, then as long as it's not NDA, like maybe previous jobs if that's the case.
I roll out of bed and go to the computer.
I feel it.
Not the healthiest option, to be honest. I would love to get up and just go for a walk, drink a bunch of water, have a good breakfast, but in reality, I'm a tired person. I want to sleep in as much as I can. But our work day is we work like whatever hours we want because we're technically freelance, but I like to work 9 to 5 just to keep the schedule going. And I have like lunch at 1, but just the usual, to be honest. No, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Me is like 1,000 push-ups, like a gallon of water, it's easy. Yeah, I just kind of like roll out of bed as well and watch YouTube and then make cartoons. Our job is really chill. We have like one meeting a week. And we don't even talk about work. I just get made fun of for meal prepping my breakfast sandwiches that I meal prep every week. It's all they make fun of me for. And that's our job.
Yeah. And at the end of all of our meetings, Owen's like, "You guys are doing great." And we're like, "Yay, thank you,
Good
Owen."
job.
And also our director, Ben, shout out to him, he's great. He has a lot of positive feedback and takes you a long way as an animator, seriously. Because I've had some directors that are like, "Here's a huge list of revisions, you did a terrible job, go for it." And it's like, oh man, I'm getting burnt out, I'm getting tired, I'm getting sick from this. And the positive feedback, I am so empowered and I have improved so much because of that. So yeah, shout out to him.
That's Ben Jack. Look him up.
Write that down.
Yes.
So also a reminder, there is 10 minutes till it's mingle hours, so just keep that in mind as we're going forward. But the next question.
Hi, my name is Rose, and quick break from all the animation-related questions. What's your favorite comfort food?
I like a lot of food.
He said coffee and a cigarette, a French breakfast, you know?
Oh yeah, like holding a nice warm cup of tea is fantastic. Like there's so many varieties of tea, all of them in one. I like an apothecary of tea, it's awesome.
Shut it down.
Hello, my name is Quincy. So, my question is, because I know you say that it's good to practice outside of like actual like work environment. When you do personal projects, do you do that with the intention of using them as portfolio pieces? And if so, like how do you go about like that specific process?
What I do is, am I going to be proud of this when I'm done? And if I'm going to be proud of it, people are going to notice that. Simple answer, but there you go.
All right, anyone else? Pass it, you choose.
I don't like that power.
Sort of going off of that question, what's your best advice for actually like completing personal projects, especially while maybe you're working a full-time job that's not art related at all? It kind of, I think a lot of people like get burned out and they don't eventually end up completing it.
My thing is I schedule it, so during the weekdays, like I'm currently working on the video game outside of work, because it's just been fun. And I'll do like 2 hours a night, and then 8 hours on the weekend, and that's like 4 hours split between 2 days. And then I don't allow myself to work or be on the computer outside that at all, so I get a lot of video game time and walking around time.
I think that relates to how you said to hire yourself, like set schedule time, smart.
Yeah, I worked at Disney World before in animation, and I understand that burnout hardcore. I worked at the largest Disney store in the world for like 3 years straight, and I was like, oh man, I just want to go to bed immediately after I go home, but you just gotta take the time, just make time for it, and there's a lot of discipline involved, and you're gonna be like, oh man, I don't want to do this, but when you are doing it, and when you're done doing it, you're going to feel so relieved that you did it.
All right, next question, passed around, Scully's over here.
Hi, my name's Cole. I'm sorry, I forget your name, but
This is Josh and Torrey.
Josh, thank you. Earlier you mentioned you were on Newgrounds before. By any chance, do you remember your old username, or no reason whatsoever?
I do, I still go by it. You know what? Look me up on YouTube instead. I go like Mr. Chambers on YouTube. If you type that in, you'll just see a lot of Game Grumps animations, and you'll be spared from my personal work. I think that's for your safety.
All right, this guy has been patiently waiting, so pass it down this way.
Howdy.
My name is Tyler. Question about what you said earlier about you had applied for this job online and blah blah blah. Have you had luck in your career so far, better luck with just applying through regular job portals and boards, or have you ever utilized like friendships in a way to like see if you can move that along in that way?
Yeah, having friends in the industry is extremely beneficial. Most of my jobs have been through friends. I also have a lot of skills to back that up, and my friends who have been my coworkers as well have seen that, and they're like, this is a good coworker and a good friend, I want to work with them. So always never try to burn bridges, like ever, with anyone, because you're going to find out that everyone's passionate about animation that you're going to be working with, and we're all in this together, to be honest. So.
I like how earlier you said not a competitor but an ally.
Exactly, yeah.
I got one job through like an application. Like I worked at Powerhouse for a few months, and like I was just like applying on their website. I think like animation studios, like you just go straight to their website. That's a good way to do it. But I think even then, it's just stacks on stacks of demo reels that's on there. And then the rest have just been through buddies. So yeah, definitely, you gotta meet people. It sucks.
You have to be an extrovert, and it's unfortunate.
I'll go. What advice do you give to introverts who don't really know how to fiend being an extrovert?
Go against the current and work on your social skills. I think most of us are introverts, but you can actually train yourself to become more extroverted because you know the people around you are feeling the exact same way.
Are you nervous? Me too. Exactly. Yeah. All right, who's next? We still have 5 minutes.
Who's next?
Way in the back. Okay. You
Go
can go.
pass
If you have a
it
question,
over.
go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, is it possible to get an animation job without like a bachelor's degree in animation and visual arts?
Yeah, just having a really good reel is all you really need, but a degree helps a lot because you learn a lot with that degree.
Okay. Because I'm doing like a bachelor's degree in like game design and not like looking another major.
Pass it along. Teamwork.
Take one down, pass it on.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
My name's Josh.
Yo.
But my question is, what is some advice on funding a passion project or like gathering? Because it takes money to like, market it and like build it up. So like.
Something I've done is like, I'll do everything myself. Like right now I'm making a game. I didn't know how to code, so I taught myself how to code. Now I'm making the game, and then I got 2 other friends that really like it, and so now they're gonna work with me on it. And we're gonna try Kickstarter in like 3 or 4 months, and maybe we'll fail. So I don't think I could answer your question, because maybe I'd retroactively be lying.
You can also like offer to help other people out their personal projects, and they can help you with your personal projects as well.
Also, there are like grants that you can apply for. They can be a bit hard, and it never hurts to try for those, but I've heard about that.
Hello, my name is Tyler. What is a mistake or mishaps you've seen with other animators that you advise not to for us to have?
The T.
The T.
What's the T?
I know. Gosh. Do you have something? I have to think about this one.
Don't badmouth studios on LinkedIn.
That's a true story.
Multiple true stories. Anytime someone's like, well, I was working at that studio, like, you're just like, it was great. Unless it's like another animator you know, and then you can be like, oh, I don't know if it was great. But you'd be like, oh, it was good. So yeah, just always be positive all the time. Corporate friendly.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? I was like in the zone for a second.
That's okay. It's like do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
What's a mistake that you've seen with people
and the application?
Career killers.
A lot of people, some people like to speak very highly of themselves, and they're actually really bad coworkers. I'm not going to name any names, but it has happened in the past, and I've been like, can you just prove yourself instead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be humble.
Yeah, being humble is really important, no matter what job you have.
Okay, I have a second question. Other than animating, do you guys do character design or anything like that?
A little bit of everything, honestly, because I just enjoy doing it all. And also doing it all gets you multiple opportunities down the line. Like, for instance, when I said I could do compositing, I got my contract extended with our current job. I'm going to be here until like mid-October or late October. And I thought I was going to be gone with all the other animators. So, yeah, study up.
And we can take one more question.
My name is Chelsea. I was wondering, how did you guys find your own art style? Like, what advice would you give?
I was just like a big hack and a copycat, and I just like found things that I liked, and I just like remade it, and then eventually I figured it out. So I would say it's like, a lot of it is like muscle memory, and it's like one of those things where just like in time, you get it. But yeah, it's like one of the, it'll come to you, I promise.
Honestly, if I ever see a mistake in my drawing, I'm like, that's part of it. And I don't mean like major mistakes, like hands are like switched up or anatomy is messed up. But basically, like, for instance, the proportions in the new TMNT movie are insane. That rhinoceros dude, his head's bigger than his body, he's still walking around. So, like, definitely exaggerate everything and, like, study up on anatomy. Anatomy's huge. Like, once you know your anatomy and you know how things work, you can, like, experiment a lot with that.
All right. Everyone, please give our speakers a big round of applause. Would you hit end stream on that iPad?
Sure. Where is it?
All right. Bye.
It's not
Too many hands.
This is a great example of
there it is. That's what I was trying to.